Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Meltdown Abroad. As you know, for our summer format, we are answering some of your parenting meltdowns.
All right, let's get into it. The question we have today is my toddler is perfectly fine at daycare, but the moment we get home, he falls apart. The screaming and the meltdowns are becoming so overwhelming that I'm dreading the evenings. I'm sending love out to this mom. I also think that this is somewhat common situation too, in situations where our kids are actually kind of overwhelmed at school. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to. I think it could be many reasons why they're overwhelmed. Like they could be having so much fun that they're just like amped up. And then when they come down, when they get home, the come down happens and they get tired at once, they get sleepy, they get hungry, they just feel everything at the same time. And they're like, I just want to get it out now. But they've been so happy at school because it's been so fun that they don't feel these other feelings until they have
like
the
they're
come
not
down.
meeting those needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then there could be the opposite too, right?
It can also be that they're like very well behaved throughout the day and something that we call masking, where they're performing and they're holding it all together and they're trying to impress and they do it all day long and then they get home and they're like, I'm finally safe and I can just release.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a couple things, even in actually in either scenario that we could talk through. So there's like questions, right? So I assume that none of these things happen on days when we're not going to school.
Yeah.
So that's basically the assumption. But does it literally happen on the way home? Does it happen when we walk in the door?
Get in the car?
Yeah, when we get in the car. Because some of these things we can help to mitigate if we know a little bit more about what's going on. But most of the time, we can expect that when our kids come back from school, they're going to be a little bit overwhelmed from whatever it is that they were doing, whether positive or negative, right? They're probably quite hungry because a lot of the time our kids don't eat very well in these environments, either because it's too much fun and they're busy playing, particularly at this age, or they don't like what's there as much and they don't, toddlers can begin to start showing some food preferences and things at this time. And it's just kind of a long time to go between eating. So just having a little bit of something that they can have to eat when they first get home, even that just can reset things a little bit.
Yeah, right in the car.
Right,
like
exactly.
As you pick them up, they're having their snack.
Yeah. Yeah. And it helps just give them a little bit of like a recharge when they're coming back. Most moms, and it doesn't say here, but most moms have a little bit of an instinct of like, my kid seems to really love school and then they're still falling apart at home. Or I know that they don't love school very much and they're falling apart afterwards.
Yeah. There's that scenario too.
Yeah. And so that would be one of the questions that I would ask you here is, do you have a sense of how good of a match school is for them at this moment? And I don't mean that in that there would need to be a change of school. What I mean is that, do you know that right now they get on very well with their teacher, they have some friends, you like the structure of the school, they talk about the school fondly, they, all of those things are going on? Or do they really have a hard time getting to school? Is that transition really quite difficult to do? And then they seem fine once you leave, but then also kind of meltdown when you get back. They're little, so they may not be able to articulate a ton of things, but they might be able to say a few. And if they are saying anything that helps you to identify what's going on during the day, and if they can't, you can also talk to the school a little bit just about what it all looks like. If, it sounds like they're holding it together well, but are they giggling and laughing with their friends and engaging in all the activities? They have really high energy. Or are there certain things that are more difficult for them that they might be kind of adjusting to or figuring out? That also might contribute to that kind of restraint collapse. That kind of I've been doing all these things all day out in the big world, and then I come back home, and this is a safe place too.
Yeah, I would definitely, just start by saying that home is where it's safest to let your guard down. So him falling apart when he gets home has nothing to do with what you're doing wrong or, it has nothing to do with the home environment itself other than safety. And so this is a very, very typical situation that happens to many, many parents of these kids who are still learning to regulate. The days are very long. It can feel even though they're having fun, it can be very depleting for their nervous system. And so whether they're having fun or not, it's going to be a lot, and home is safe, and home is where I can just let it all go, So I would want to know how much downtime, like what does his transition home look like? From school to home, what's happening? Are there more activities in between, or is it home and then possibly a break, or is it home and something that's also overstimulating? Because if they're coming home, I would probably try to create an environment that they can probably take a nap. I know it sounds crazy to say before bedtime, but if they are, especially if they're already a decent sleeper, I would also give them time to just have like a 20 or 30-minute nap when they get home, because it's down regulating their nervous system, but also it's just giving them this like comfort and peace that translate as calm instead of overwhelm. And if it's not nap time, if they're not a great sleeper, I don't recommend giving them a nap. But what you can also do is just like have a quiet activity that might happen before you even get home. So something that's down regulating them. If it's a matter of they're just like unhappy or not, the sense of like, I didn't want to be here today, then you would want to do something that's more exciting before you get home so that they can get out that frustration. So taking them to the park, so transition to the park before you go home and give them like 30 to 40 minutes on the playground and then go home. That as well will kind of, re-regulate their nervous system.
Yeah. I mean, there can even be things, I'm not sure how we get from daycare to home in this scenario. And in Europe, there's a lot more kind of biking and walking outside. And in America, there's more picking up from daycare and driving home. But even if there's a story that they really like, you can turn that on in the car on the way. And it's something that they always know. So it can be very consistent, very calm. Sometimes that when we have that, like when we know what to expect, that can also be really kind of calming. And if you do end up then back at home, you can also do something really soothing when you get home if sleep is not something that works at that depends on the time that the daycare lets out, right? But you can still do something really cozy that requires very little of them, that just kind of helps them move into the next part of their day, right?
Yeah.
I definitely recommend the snacks on the way home. That's very helpful. But also even, one question that I would have here is also around when this is happening and what is the screaming in response to being told they can't do something, because that's quite common for a toddler. What do the meltdowns look like? And can you identify a little bit more about what is going on before and after? Because it also is saying here that obviously they fall apart when they're coming home, but also that like the whole evening is kind of taken up by this. And so I think, lots of kids and certainly toddlers too kind of fall apart when they first get home. And then it's sort of recovered. And so if it's not recovering, then the other thing is that probably that transition, they're not kind of getting back to a regulated state again. Right? Yeah. And so we would want to help them to do that a little better.
Yeah, definitely want to know where it's starting.
Yeah.
So is it right at pickup when you get in the car, or is it just when you walk through the door? And like you said, it's really important to know how long the duration of this is happening for, because then we really need to implement a method to help them get down from the meltdown long before it happens.
Yeah, I mean, and kids, they all respond differently, so there's some kids that like love the bath, and so maybe we don't save the bath till right before bed. Maybe we come home from daycare and we take a bath, and maybe we have our snack, maybe we do something quite calming, but there are, it sounds like, some supports for the transition between daycare and home, and maybe having that be sort of consistent. You can trial a few different things of what feels kind of soothing and calm during those times. And then with a thing, because every child is so different, but when you find a couple that are working, then you can sort of create a little bit of a routine around coming home. So what does that look like now? Maybe we hop in the bath. Maybe we're reading with a whole bunch of cozy things. Maybe if you have a little tent or a little fort, you can read inside it, something like cozy or contained that just feels more mellow and kind of fills them, back up emotionally, so that when we get to some of the other things we have to do at night that particularly toddlers don't love, between needing to get their teeth brushed and getting their pajamas on and doing all these sort of little things that they tend to resist, we've gotten to a calmer place before we're then asking them to do those things again, because that going from daycare to requiring some of these other steps without a lot of downtime in between can also cause some of this.
Yeah. I definitely, so just kind of moving into some of the strategies, of course, their bodies are learning how to be up all day, and they're building their stamina to follow through these routines and have different activities and just have structure throughout their day. And it's getting used to structure. So not that they're incapable of structure, it's that their stamina just isn't there yet. But more structure is also beneficial for them. So if you're able to plan all these routines and have these ways of doing things, I think what I would suggest is getting it down on paper and having a visual representation of that you can already introduce once you get in the car. Maybe it's a sticker that's on the back of the what do you call
headrest?
The headrest.
Yeah.
Or, you have just the paper if you guys are walking home, taking the bus, and you go through the routine and you get them excited about it. But it's just a reminder, and they can see it and they have a sense of predictability and control. Like, this is what's going to happen next. Because that's actually what's getting them through the day as well. It is that structure, it is that routine. It's knowing, even though it feels heavy for the nervous system, they're able to tolerate it throughout the day. And then at home, that's not there anymore. So there's this like mismatch in the environment where it's almost like, well, it's also safety at home, but like what's going to happen next? Like it could also be just that response, like a shock to their system as well, because that structure just kind of ended abruptly for them. And now it's just like, I can be wild. I can go play. I can do whatever I want. And that can feel overwhelming for them as well. Their bodies are just learning all these new things.
Yeah, it's a lot to learn. And it does, I think those visuals are really helpful, having like, this is what we do after school, and they can see the things and they can show you, and because you show them a few times and then you could hand it to them and be like, what do we have next? And then they show it to you. Particularly at this age, they love feeling like they are kind of in control and teaching you something. And so if they can then show you, well, I do this first, and they can walk through that a little bit, it regulates them because they're reminding themselves of all the things that they know that are coming next. But it also helps them with that control a little bit. If there's a couple options for what they do when they first come in, that's another thing that they could control with your boundary around it, with your container. So you get to pick, is it this or this? And then they get to choose. That can kind of help them feel some ownership when they come home, if that's a challenge. Yeah. So that can also be really helpful when you're creating those visuals.
Yeah. I'm very curious to know when this is happening, because if it's a transition like right out of school, which is what I'm imagining in my head, that it's already hard, I would definitely delay the transition. Stay at school a little bit longer. Like you said, have a storybook. You can read the story on the steps at the school, out on the sidewalk, in the car, like a bench at a park nearby the school, and just delay that home time so that the safety's with you and the down regulation is happening with you. And then we're already creating that soothing environment to transition into home where we're already at a more regulated state.
I know some families that will like bring a couple favorite stories and a snack and do that and then get in the car. Some kids actually really don't like the car, and then they're bored in the car and they don't know what to do, and then they're getting home and they don't know what to do there either. And so it kind of calms down, they're better fed, and then off you go. And that is definitely a way. Yeah. I'm kind of imagining that it's happening there. And that's why, because we have no plan, we haven't started the down regulating yet. It's happening when we get home. And when you get home, there's so many transitions that are happening. You're preparing food, you're probably like cleaning up a little bit. And so there's this like delay in the next routine that's going to come. And so their nervous system is just like, it's staying upregulated for so long that they're bursting, and the duration is long because it's already extended into the evening a little bit. I like what you said too, just about all the different transitions, because when we're transitioning it also means that as parents, our focus is on a few different things. We're
Mhm.
gathering all the things, we're getting things together. We're not with them and as connected in the same way as we might be when we're sitting down reading a book or playing something. And it doesn't actually have to be long, 5 or 10 minutes with a story, or with like some, going to look for flowers outside of the school for a few minutes together as an connected activity together, where there aren't screens, there's nothing else, can really calm everyone down before we go into the other transition of, now we got to take our shoes off and our coat off, and we're doing these other things to kind of get into the new space. All of those things are these little demands that kids could care less about. They don't really care about the coat or the shoes or the mess or any of those things, right? And so those are not like regulating activities for them, right?
It's not. And we've mentioned this in another episode that, they don't have the skills yet. So co-regulation is so important at this time. So as much as your evenings are busy with your own transitions, that meaningful time to co-regulate with them is what's helping them learn how to manage this transition. Eventually, maybe they'll start taking the book and wanting to read it to you, or they'll go off and read it by themselves, but they're learning these skills through modeling and co-regulating and showing them how it can be done. Yeah,
exactly. And they'll pick up on all of that modeling and that work that you're doing with them, and it helps them to then do it themselves when they get a little bigger. Toddlers still need a lot of help with this.
No, it's and there's also just a lot of energy. They're also just learning how to express themselves too.
And there's a lot of cause and effect. Like when I make this really high-pitched noise, what happens? And so there's a lot of that learning too. And so, we can adjust kind of our responses a little bit also to help to decrease the things we don't want to see and to increase the things we do want to see with lots of our attention. But when we give lots of attention to screaming and some of these other things, obviously we want to know why that's happening, right? Like we want to understand the context, but what we give our focus to and our consistent attention to, kids will repeat typically.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot. And like we said, this is not first time occurrence. It happens with lots of the little kids. So if you're a parent who has had to manage through this, please share some of your strategies in the comment section. We are a community. We're here to help each other and learn from each other. And if you do have any families or friends who are going through the same things or might benefit from this episode, please share it with them. If you have your own question that you'd like to have answered, please write us in at meltdownabroad@gmail.com, or if you're following us on socials, which you should be, you can DM us and we'll answer it in one of our episodes. Perfect. But yes, we're a community and we're here to share experiences and learn from each other. So please support. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.
We'll see you soon.
Bye.